The early 1930s felt heavy with uncertainty. Factories stood silent, unemployment lines stretched through city streets, and headlines spoke of crisis. Memories of World War I haunted families as veterans limped through parks and many mourned lost loved ones. Some clung to hope, but others blamed outsiders or governments. The world felt not only poor, but divided. The crash of 1929 didn't stay in America. Like a wave, it swept across the world, touching nearly every household. In the US, banks closed and farmers lost their land. In Germany, inflation made money worthless overnight. Britain faced strikes and poverty. Even Brazil and Australia suffered as export prices collapsed. The Depression was a human tragedy. Families struggled, children left school, and old certainties crumbled. After World War I, Germany, Italy, and Japan felt left out and resentful. Harsh treaties and debts hit Germany hard, while Italy and Japan believed they deserved more respect. These nations saw themselves as outsiders in a world led by Britain, France, and the United States. Their leaders promised to restore pride and prosperity. As economies suffered, aggressive leaders like Hitler, Mussolini, and Japan's military rose to power, blaming outsiders and stirring up old hatreds. Their rise set the stage for new conflict as the world watched anxiously. In September 1931, the world's attention turned to Asia as Japanese soldiers invaded Manchuria, shocking the world. Japan quickly set up a puppet government, while China protested to the League of Nations. The League condemned Japan's actions, but their words had little effect. Japan simply left the League and continued its expansion. The crisis revealed the weakness of international organizations and marked a turning point for world peace. While Asia faced turmoil, Germany went through its own transformation. The early 1930s were a time of desperation for many Germans. Economic collapse, street violence, and political chaos made daily life frightening. Many people believed their democratic government could not protect them or fix their problems. In January 1933, these fears brought Adolf Hitler to power as Chancellor. Hitler was a powerful speaker who promised jobs, national pride, and order. He blamed minorities and outsiders for Germany's troubles and quickly moved to silence his opponents. The government passed new laws, limiting freedom and giving the police more power. Ordinary Germans faced tough choices: support the new leader, stay silent, or risk punishment by speaking out. Some found hope in Hitler's promises, others worried about the growing power of the government and the loss of rights. The mood was tense. Many wanted stability, but at what cost? Germany's rapid changes shocked the world. Other nations watched with concern as Hitler rebuilt the army, ignored old treaties, and began to speak of expansion. The fragile peace created after World War I was now under grave threat. Germany was not alone in its ambitions or its troubles. In Italy, Mussolini's government grew bolder, pushing for a return to the days of the Roman Empire. Italy invaded Ethiopia, seeking to build a new empire in Africa. The world's protests were loud, but honestly pretty weak. The message was clear. Aggression often went unpunished. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin tightened his grip on power. His policies forced millions into collective farms, causing hardship and famine. In Spain and Portugal, political unrest grew. Dictatorships replaced fragile democracies, and violence often ruled the streets. The United States, meanwhile, tried to focus on its own recovery. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched the New Deal, creating jobs and hope, but also turning inward, away from global troubles. Each country faced its own struggles, but a pattern emerged. Leaders promised strength and unity, sometimes at the cost of freedom. Old alliances faded, new rivalries grew. The world became a more dangerous place, one step at a time. For ordinary people in these countries, daily life was full of uncertainty. Some cheered their leaders' plans, others worried about what would happen if old hatreds and new ambitions sparked war. Even as tensions rose, many leaders and citizens still hoped for peace. The League of Nations, created after World War I, tried to solve disputes and prevent conflict. Treaties like the Kellogg-Briand Pact, signed by dozens of countries, promised to outlaw war as a tool of policy. Diplomats met in Geneva, Paris and London, searching for ways to limit weapons and encourage cooperation. But honestly, these efforts often fell short. The League had no army and relied on member nations to enforce its decisions. When Japan invaded Manchuria, and later when Italy attacked Ethiopia, the League's words had little impact. Many countries, still suffering from the Depression, were unwilling to risk war to stop aggression. Slowly, old treaties were ignored or broken. Countries secretly rebuilt their armies. New pacts and alliances formed, some for peace, others for war. The dream of a world without conflict faded, replaced by the growing sense that another great struggle was coming. Despite the efforts of many, the tools for keeping peace proved too weak. The world's hope for lasting security slipped away, leaving only questions and fears. Behind every headline and speech were millions of ordinary people. Their lives were shaped by decisions made far away. In Germany, families listened to radio speeches, unsure whether to believe new promises. In China, villagers fled their homes as armies marched through their towns. In Britain and America, children grew up in a world where jobs were scarce and futures uncertain. Some people found hope in new leaders or movements. They believed that strong governments could end hunger and restore pride. Others feared what might happen if war returned. Memories of the last great conflict were still fresh. The trenches, the bombs, the empty chairs at family tables. Daily life was a mix of anxiety and resilience. People planted gardens, shared what little they had, and looked for small joys in hard times. They wrote letters to loved ones far away, hoping for better news. Everywhere there was a sense that the world was changing, and that the next steps could mean life or death. The choices of leaders mattered, but so did the quiet courage of ordinary men and women. Their hopes, fears and dreams shaped the spirit of the age as much as any speech or treaty. The years from 1931 to 1934 were a time of missed chances and growing danger. Each small step, an invasion, a new law, a broken treaty, brought the world closer to war. The peace built after World War I was not strong enough to withstand the storms of hatred, fear, and ambition. Looking back, we see how fragile peace can be. It is not enough to wish for it. Nations must work together, protect the vulnerable, and face problems before they grow. The lessons of these years remind us that anger, unemployment, and injustice can lead to disaster if ignored. Today, we study this era to understand how quickly hope can turn to fear and how important it is to defend peace. The choices made in the early 1930s shaped the world for decades. By remembering them, we honor the courage of those who struggled and remind ourselves to watch for the early signs of trouble. In the end, the story of 1931 to 1934 is not just about leaders or nations, it is about people, about their dreams, their pain, and their enduring hope for a better world.